You have been taught to basically go away from what you should be going towards. So when I watch shows like Barrett Jackson or Meekum, these car shows, the car auctions, I don't know if any of you guys ever watch, but you have a room full of rich white folks, and they all white. I've never seen one black dude in there. Maybe once, possibly he could have been black, I'm not sure, but usually full of white people. And they spend thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on one car. A car that they just going to put in their collection and sit and look at. And his children starving all over the world. This is what I mean. That not having the empathy of the implications of that. And we can see with hip hop music how they try to get us to basically do these same things. You see black people buying Bentleys and spending all this money. And this is what we have been taught through this system, to basically try to, destroy what makes us spiritual. So we spend all this money on Jordans and stuff that we can't afford, and we not understand. They basically trying to change us into what they are, either to mask who they are or to make us who they are. And then they try to become who we are because we see they copy us. But you got to understand, the signs show up of a non-spiritual people. We're more spiritual. You have a lot more black people be going to church. A lot more black people was into it. And what really gets white people stimulated with the whole religious thing is not just the fact that Jesus is in their image, but it's a mental thing. It's just like, it's knowledge, information. They really go hard based on the information what has been taught for thousands of years. They go hard based on what they believe is proof and evidence of it, not in a spiritual sense, but in the sense of factual information, what they believe is true. And you have a lot of Europeans that just want to believe, well, Jesus was white. The Egyptians was white. We get this argument that they want to believe that it had to be white because we ruling, we on top, everything white, white, white. And they can't grasp this concept. They can't really grasp when you start really digging into this stuff, how, it really goes back to African people. So now and again, it's not hard when you actually start doing the research to understand about the pineal gland and understand about melanin when you really start digging into it. And again, it's a lot of people out there beginning to start talking about melanin because they start to understand they have been lied to, and it's a lot more to melanin than people understand. So again, I know a lot of people are in denial about this information. A lot of people just don't want to accept it. I got a lot of emails from people who just really couldn't grasp it and had a hard time. I was called Afrocentric. A lot of people was really upset about the information, but it's going to be a lot more clear in this video. You got to understand that the information is out there. They would not be making chagas or pushing chagas. This Dr. Carl Marat would be pushing it if this wasn't true. You wouldn't have melatonin pills if this wasn't true. It's true. It's information that's out there that you can figure out for yourself. So people are not just out there being Afrocentric, which I hate that word, and they're not out there trying to bash white people and make you look bad. It's a simple fact that your own white scientists are speaking about, and more researchers are doing research on, because there are a lot of benefits that melanin has. There's so many diseases and illnesses that white people just wouldn't get if they was black. It's just that simple. So melanin is important, and it's important for people to start knowing about it and its effects and understanding, more importantly, that African people have an abundance of it, and that we are the original man, and that you basically need us to figure out the problems with yourselves. And this is one of the things they don't want to do, because then you have to look at us in a different light. But back to the Bible, the whole body is, the eye is single, the whole body be full of light. The light of the body is the eye. What is it talking about? It's talking about the pineal gland, of course. Now, the pineal gland emits light. How many people knew that? The pineal gland actually emits light. So now, in talking about the pineal gland, I'm going to read here. It says, it is already known to release various chemicals into our body, including a derivative of the feel-good chemical serotonin called melatonin. This hormone affects the modulation of our waking and sleeping patterns, but also affects our sex drive according to the seasons. Viagra, excuse me. Though scientists still admit that they still don't yet have a complete picture of the pineal gland's function. Of course they do. Bullshit. It is located in the hidden center of the brain. It is pine cone shaped and no bigger than a raisin. Incredibly, it is actually bioluminescent, so glows within the darkness of the brain as if lit by a tiny light bulb, and it has also been found to be sensitive to light. Interestingly enough, the anatomy of the gland actually consists of a lens, a cornea, and a retina, just like our eyeballs. Also, according to scientist Dr. Graham Blackwell, a large number of small crystals have been found in the gland called calcite microcrystals. They bear a striking resemblance to the calcite crystals in the inner ear that have been shown to exhibit the qualities of an electric field known as piezoelectricity. If the pineal gland crystals exhibit the same qualities, then this would prove a means whereby an external electromagnetic field might directly influence the brain. And of course it does. So again, it's talking about, you have melanin. It's talking about the pineal gland. And as I said, melanin being the driver of the vehicle, this energy to affect the pineal gland. So of course, this energy can basically program the brain. We know it sends signals down the spine, and this is how we move or what have you. So this is stuff they already know. They have done the research, trust me, on the pineal gland. They understand the importance of it. They understand what it can do. They understand how melanin is essential to the pineal gland. So when you're giving up all this information and you're saying all these things, then you say, but, Europeans have a 60 to 80% calcified pineal gland. There's an issue, there's a problem. And a lot of people are not looking at that. And they're not saying straight out, African people, black people, well, they don't have this problem. They are genetically superior. Their babies develop faster. They are smarter. They are genetically stronger. Everything about them resembles the universe. And of course, this is not going to be said, but this is what people have to understand. This is what you have to know. And again, this is not information that was put out there for you to basically just get. And the reason why it's being put to you the way that it is secretly is because they don't want you to understand exactly what I was just saying. So now it's easy to see, the pineal gland having these crystals, inside of it. So when you understand the implications of how crystals affect light, how it can store light, this is huge when you think about the fact that we have this in the pineal gland, and he's telling you about the energy and light that our body produces and everything. So you can understand how these things can go hand in hand. So melanin is a huge part of all of this, because again, it is the driver that's going to get this energy and light to the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is going to get it to the subconscious to get you to start, activating it, to get you to start, bringing it together with your consciousness. So, it's a huge thing when you see that. Again, they're talking about in the article about, bioluminescence, the pineal gland actually lighting up. So this is one of the reasons why when they show the pictures of Jesus and, Krishna, what have you, they have that light, the sun behind their head. The pineal gland is the sun. This is one of the reasons why it has that. So you can see everything fits. It's just, there's no way. You got to get this. This is not bullshit. Everything fits. It all works. It's going to fit a lot more as we keep going. So this is what this is all about. But let's go back to the Garden of Eden. So then I love going to the Garden of Eden and getting into this stuff. So now, God basically didn't want us to get the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. If we did so, we'd become gods. So God didn't want that to happen. So now understand, the tree of life, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, is basically your spinal column and your brain. It's just that simple. When you look at pictures, they look just like trees. So the tree of life, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, what have you, it's just your spinal column in your brain. So you have the tree of life, basically where your pine cone shaped pineal gland sits on. You have the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, where you have the reptilian lower brain, which is why the serpent is on a tree in the story, because it symbolized the reptilian lower brain sitting on the tree of your brain, which, looks like a tree. So this is what this stuff is all, getting into. So now your brain, or your pineal gland, I should say, sits in the middle of your brain, basically protected by the two cerebral hemispheres, which the Bible gives us the two cherubims that's basically protecting the trees, tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So you have the two cerebral hemispheres and the two cherubims. Same thing. So it's giving you the brain right there. You have the brain that's like a tree. You have the cherubims protecting it. And you have the tree of life. You have the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So metaphorically, if you really want to get into in the Garden of Eden, it's breaking down the brain. As I said, we fell because of the lower brain. So you have the lower brain sitting on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That lower reptilian brain would be the evil, or, bird brain, limbic system, prefrontal cortex, or what have you, would be the good. So you have good and evil basically on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You have basically the pineal gland being on the tree of life. And this is what God is protecting us from. So it's easy to see when you start breaking down the story metaphorically. What it's talking about is talking about the brain. So now Led Zeppelin, wrote a song called Stairway to Heaven. Everybody knows about the song. When you play it backwards, it's a song to Satan. Everybody heard about that. So why did they make that song? Stairway to Heaven is actually a Masonic saying. It's something that you learn about in the 33rd degree of Freemasonry. Now, the Stairway to Heaven is actually your spinal column. Plain and simple. Your spinal column has 33 vertebrae. 33 vertebrae leading up to, the brain. So again, we know Satan is on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So you have these stairs leading up the spinal column, leading to the brain, or to the reptilian brain, to Satan. So thus you have the song to Satan when you spin it backwards. So you have, 33 vertebrae, you have 33rd degree of Freemasonry, you have 66 books of the Bible. And we know that King James was a Mason. They put together the Bible. They hid all that Masonic information within the Bible, which is why you have 66 books. Masonic, it's all Masonic. And we know Jesus, everything about him, deals with Freemasonry. Just that simple, as I did a video on. So it says in the song to Satan that he will give you 666. So you have 33 vertebrae, 3 and 3 is 6. 33 degrees of Freemasonry, 3 and 3 is 6. You have Jesus who died at 33. You have 3 and 3 is 6. So he will give you 666. It's talking about all this stuff. When you start going back, if you got into this stuff, when I was studying Aleister Crowley, I was really into, and by the way, they wrote that song in Aleister Crowley's house. They bought his house and wrote that song in it. But when I was studying Crowley, I got into heavy metal hard, really started getting into the music because I wanted to really learn and listen to what they were saying. Ozzy and Led Zeppelin and, Queen. Queen got some crazy songs. And really start getting into the music because it's so much hidden in a lot of their music. And I really, if you can put up with it, I liked a lot of their music, to tell you the truth. But I really encourage people to listen to a lot of those songs and really start decoding, because it'll help you, in your brain, to get into your brain and you start thinking about stuff. You'll be doing research and that song will pop into your head or something that they said. And you'll be like, that's what it's talking about. You can never have too much information, trust me. But there's so many different sayings, so many different phrases, so many different things that we can go into that's going to lead you to the understanding of melanin and the brain. It's going to lead you to the understanding of Kundalini energy and the understanding of how melanin is important to all of this. So when you have people like, Alice Cooper and Queen and all these white folks doing these songs who don't really understand what it's about, you got to understand, when a lot of these initiates come into Freemasonry, they have no clue. They just, I'm a Mason, what have you. You do not get this knowledge I'm giving you till you get to the 33rd degree and beyond. It's just that simple, because then if you got this kind of knowledge at that level, it changes a lot. It makes you really start to call into question a lot of things that, you're doing. And it's so many people who just have no clue about this stuff. And you can imagine how a person would think if they're white and they came into this knowledge that I'm going to give you here, or what we talked about at the end of Buddhism too, about how the melanated black person is needed and is essential to basically going to heaven, or to basically ascending to your purpose, in creation. So, when you start digging into Jesus and everything about Jesus, when you start digging into the people that surround him and things that surround him, you're going to find that it shows up a lot in math, physics, astrology, and of course, Freemasonry, which Jesus is just surrounded with it. He's a Mason, he's a Mason, just that clear and simple when you start really getting into that information. So, it's really, really clear to see. Now, Jesus was crucified in Golgotha, which is the place of the skull. So we know Jesus is the sun is the pineal gland. The place of the skull is where the pineal gland sits. All of it goes back to the pineal gland, goes back to melanin. It's all fitting there, plain and simple. Now you have Jacob's ladder. What is Jacob's ladder? It's the same as the stairway to heaven. It's your spinal column leading to the pineal gland, to the brain. So you have Jacob's ladder. You have Genesis 32:30. Jacob called the name of the place Pineal, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. Everything. It all fits. It's all going to lead you here. There's no way around it. There's no escaping it. What do you think all this stuff is for? And it's tough for people to get this kind of information, and it's a part of you that want to run from it. But then it's a part of you that is intrigued by it and wants to continue on. And you got to understand they put so much out here in the world to try to make you comfortable with your normal life, with your normal self. I don't want no troubles. I don't want no problem. I want to keep my head down. I want to just go about my life. I don't want to deal with this shit. And a lot of people feel that way. And a lot of people, some people get depressed, watching my videos. And some people get, I had a lot of people, man, your videos is depressing. They make me sad. They make me have no hope. And how could you not have hope, man? How could you not get this? I know it's all scary. It's all weird information, but you got to get this stuff and understand that this is amazing, that you have the knowledge, that you're understanding this, that you're going to have the tools necessary to do and fulfill your purpose. This material stuff is shit. It's nothing. Come on. You can't keep it forever. You are going to die. It is inevitable. Plain and simple. So you got to grasp that and understand it and grow up and not try to hold on to this physical material stuff, and understand that this stuff is just here for you to basically fulfill your purpose. It's just that simple. So everywhere you look, you're going to keep finding this stuff. You're going to start finding out that it all leads to the Bible. It all leads to Kemet. It all leads to you, black people. So this is basically going to bring me to, my final part of the DVD, which is going to be long, but it's going to be cool. It's going to be worth it. And this is where I really can prove my point, or one of the best things I can use to prove my point, because it's so many places that you don't understand that's telling you exactly what I'm saying. So as I said in the beginning of the DVD, beginning of the video, we're going to use the Matrix to basically prove this point. You're going to understand what it's really, truly talking about. It's so many people who put out videos on the Matrix. I know you've seen a lot. I talk about the Matrix a lot, but they don't have the clear understanding of what it's talking about. I think after you see what I'm going to show you, you'll understand that it's the truth, that it's clear. And it's a lot that it entails, but everything will piece together and it'll fit, and you'll get it. You'll start understanding that, damn, it's the truth. This is what it's talking about. So, this is going to be one of those things where, you're going to have to probably watch twice after we go through all of it and really get it. But you should be able to get it the first time. But it's a lot of information, but it's going to be cool. It's going to be really insightful, and it's really going to make a lot of sense. So now, as I said in the beginning, you guys have been spoiled. You're a Superman, you're a Batman, you're the X-Men. You're so many superheroes. There's so many things that you have that portray you in this positive, unbelievable light as being the superior being over everybody else. And the fact that Europeans are in power is another thing that just gives you this validity, and a lot of people are arrogant of that, and this ego that's going to keep people from really grasping this kind of information. And the only way you can really convey it to them is to do things like this and put it into things that can be proven and seen and stuff that they know about. So The Matrix is just one of those movies where everybody knows it's talking about hidden stuff and that it goes into a lot of things. But you got to understand when I'm talking about, the Europeans needing to reincarnate back into a melanated body, you have to understand that esoterically, and the occult. This is the sum of all that information. It's giving you that. This is what it's telling you. When you put it together, when you start getting into the information, the main thing, one of the biggest, deepest secrets that is hidden, that is almost impossible to figure out. I'm not going to say I'm just super genius or what have you. It's right there in front of your face to tell you the truth. It's playing on your prejudice. It's playing on your, let's say your programming, the way you have been programmed. It's playing on you being spoiled and everything. It's playing on that so you don't come to this conclusion, as I talked about in part 2. But it's playing on all that. So, you have to understand that you have to come back into melanin in order to ascend. It's just that simple. Jesus tells you in John 3:33, take the hint. He tells you, except the man be born again, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. Plain and simple. And by that born again, it's telling you, you must be born again of a black woman, of melanin. All the metaphysics of the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, as I proved and showed you, and that scanning the Bible and Christianity finally explained, equates to the womb of the black woman. So when you start putting everything together, it's telling you this is what it's talking about. Let's get into this thing. First off, we go to Matrix Revolutions, the last Matrix. Remember, Neo wakes up at the train station. And he wakes up and he goes over, he sees the little girl first, and he sees the man. He tells her, hey, leave that poor man alone. And he sees his wife. This is the biggest clue of the Matrix. This scene in the Matrix gives away the whole entire series. Plain and simple. He gives it all away right here. And of course, they would save it for the last movie. But this scene is where everything is, as I'm about to break down. So he goes over, and the man explains who he is. And when I first heard it, it just blew me away when he talked. Comes right up to Neo. Hi, I'm Ramachandra. This is my wife, Kamala, our daughter, Seti. These are all Hindu gods. It's just that simple. So to me, I'm just blown away. Like, did he really just give it away like that? He kind of hit something, which you'll get into later. But just like that. So when you understand these Hindu gods, you can start really from the last Matrix Revolutions, from the third movie, you can start breaking down everything else. Everything starts to unravel when you start to understand what he's representing. Now remember, he comes over, he says, I'm Ramachandra, and we know Rama, which would be short for Ramachandra, he is dealing with reincarnation. Rama is more well known for incarnating as Krishna. He is the 7th incarnation of Vishnu. And everything about Rama deals with reincarnation. So that's one of the first things that blow you away. When you start looking into Ramachandra, into Rama, and understanding, he's the 7th avatar of Vishnu. He incarnated as Gautama Buddha, as Krishna. So it starts to get you, digging into things. So what was his job? What was the job of Ramachandra in the Matrix? He was the power plant systems manager for recycling. Think about that. So you have Ramachandra dealing with reincarnation into, different gods. You have this Ramachandra basically dealing with the same thing, reincarnation. So let's go back to the Matrix 1. So the power plant systems manager for recycling. Go back to Matrix 1, Cypher. Remember, when Cypher was having a meeting with Agent Smith, remember what he said. And I'm not going to be able to play the actual Matrix scenes, of course, because of copyright. And they've been on my ass. I know they're probably watching my shit. And I don't want them to find one little thing to be able to sue my ass over because I'm putting out this information. But I know the rules. I follow the rules. Other rules as well. And anything I do put in my videos, my DVDs, meets fair use. So it's all cool. So, yeah, but I can't put the Matrix in there. I wish I could. It would just stand out more, but you can go and Google these clips. Now, as I was saying, cipher. When he's having the meeting with Agent Smith, when he's about to basically betray the rest of the guys, what does he say? He said, okay, I get my body back to the power plant. You reinsert me into the matrix. So you understand that the power plant is where Neo woke up at, where all those bodies was. So you got to make sure you make that connection and understand when it's talking about reincarnation, when he's talking about the power plant system manager for recycling, he's talking about recycling the bodies and the souls of the people. So Ramachandra is all about reincarnation. This is dealing with reincarnation. This is the first biggest clue about everything. Everything else is just going to fall into place. Now, also remember Morpheus explaining that the dead is fed intravenously to the living. So you have the recycling of the bodies to the living and the recycling of the energy or the soul into the new fetuses, the new babies that they was growing in those fields. So again, Ramachandra representing the reincarnation. You see it, it's clear. So now when we go and look at Rama, it's saying here, Rama is a Vedic Sanskrit word with two contextual meanings. In one context, it's found in Atharva Veda, and Veda basically means knowledge. Atharva Veda basically means the process of everyday life. Atharva Veda states, Monir Williams, who was professor, it means dark colored black. So it's basically saying Rama, and Monir Williams, who was an expert in Sanskrit and expert in Hindu studies, he's saying that Rama means dark colored black, and is related to the term Ratri, which means night. In another context, as found in another Vedic text, the word means pleasing, delightful, charming, beautiful, lovely. So we have Ramachandra dealing with reincarnation. You know, take the hint. Ramachandra, reincarnation. When we look at Rama, it's dealing with black, it's dealing with dark or dark skin. Take the hint. So we go to Kamala, which Kamala is short for the Hindu god Kamala Mika. I ain't going to be saying that whole name the whole time. I'm about to say Kamala because it's Kamala for short. Now, Kamala is the Hindu god of creation and consciousness. Whenever you see her, she's always depicted with water and with a lotus. You know, a lotus is called a water lily. So you have Kamala, you have the lotus, you have Osiris, you have the lotus, you have a bunch of other Egyptian gods in the lotus. The lotus is a symbol for rebirth, plain and simple. So Kamala is dealing with rebirth, just like you have Ramachandra dealing with reincarnation, rebirth, reincarnation, same thing. It's giving you a hint here. It's telling you something. So when you understand the lotus, let's look up what the lotus symbol really means. It says here, the lotus symbol, the water lily. Discover the history and religious beliefs surrounding the lotus symbol, which was one of the most important religious Egyptian symbols in the mythology of ancient Egypt. The lotus is used as a symbol in ancient Egypt art, representing the sun of creation, rebirth, and was a symbol of Upper Egypt. As a symbol of the sun, it is closely associated with Atum Ra, the sun god, and later Nefertum, lotus god of perfume. Lotus flowers, also called water lilies, open in the morning and close again at night, symbolizing rebirth and regeneration. The lotus flower water lily was also used to symbolize the deceased upon entering the underworld and the process of rebirth, regeneration, and reincarnation. So now Kamala, what was her job? Her job was interactive systems manager, which basically is like the consciousness or the energy, the consciousness of the computer, you might as well say. So you have her job, her itself, the Hindu definition of Kamala, the Hindu god dealing with reincarnation, just like you have Ramachandra. I'm going to say Sati, the little girl, for later, for last, because there's a lot of stuff we got to get into in between to understand her. Because remember, as we don't see Ramachandra and Kamala, we know in Revolutions at the end, we see a couple more parts that you have Sati. It's a reason for that. So we'll explain her later. Now, Neo himself is an incarnation. He is the sixth incarnation of the One. He reincarnated, 6 times, basically what it's telling you, as the architect points out to him. He's reincarnated. So it's symbolizing, it's telling you reincarnating over and over again. There you have that symbology as I explained to you.